Welcome to this afternoon's organ recital. I'll play a survey of music from early music 1688 or so up to the present. And on our wonderful Opus 118 Andover organ put in to our sanctuary, especially to accommodate our acoustics, was studied very carefully. And 6 years it's been in, going on 7. I'd like to start our program off by saying a little bit about the word organ, which comes from the Greek, 300 BC. Scientists, mechanics, engineers in Greece started working on hydraulic organs, water organs, just the psychology of pitch, and Pythagoras with the overtone series and so forth. A lot of that was going on. And the organ, as we know it in church, began about in the 1300s. And I would like to begin with a piece by Domenico Zippoli from the Italian School of Organ Playing. The Italian School of Organ Playing does not have pedals. The instrument was a touch instrument. There are a lot of toccatas and ricercatas written for the organ at that time, and mostly, and all for church. The Roman circuses actually used the organ, and the Calliope is an organ. Domenico Zippoli was born in 1688 in Prato, Italy, and died in 1726 in Cordoba, Argentina. I'm just wondering what he was doing in Argentina, but he joined the Jesuits. He became a Jesuit priest in order to work with the people, and he ended up in Peru. I'd like to play a piece called Festival Postlude for you. It does include one pedal note, which is called a pedal point. It's held all the way through the piece. So here it goes. Festival Postlude by Domenico Zippoli. Domenico Zippoli. And now I would like to play a piece which is written for strings by Vivaldi, Antonio Vivaldi. who was born in 1685, 78. Bach was born in 1685. And he was a priest he was called the Red Priest. He had bright red hair and suffered from epilepsy and often had seizures during Mass. So he was excused from Mass. And for the most part, while he was in Venice, he was a professor of music at an orphanage for children of all ages. It was called the Ospedale di Venice. And the boys that were placed in the orphanage learned trades, and the girls all learned music. So Vivaldi had all these wonderful little girls and big girls learning violin, viola, cello, everything, theorbo, probably that early instrument. And he had just the most wonderful girls musical ensemble that was a tourist attraction for people from all over Europe. And he worked with them for many, many years. And then toward the end of his middle age, he went off to Vienna to work for King Charles, who unfortunately 1 year after he got to Vienna to work, King Charles passed away, and Vivaldi had no patron, and he died in Vienna at a relatively early age. So why don't we hear this piece by Vivaldi, which is set by J.S. Bach for the organ. In those days, and I don't know how composers work now in conservatories, but before there were conservatories, I imagine there were people studied as apprentices. Bach copied the works of Vivaldi and Telemann and people writing around his time, maybe even Cipolla. And he learned his trade through copying music. So he copied this concerto of Vivaldi for the organ. So this is an organ transcription of a Vivaldi concerto by J.S. Bach. And now I shall set my pistons on this wonderful organ. And here we go. My page turner will take its place. You do feel like you're riding the wave when you play that. It's wonderful to play. And when I was learning this, as I came home from organ practice and turned on my car radio, what should I hear but a rendition of Vivaldi's Concerto for the Strings. And I thought about all the girls playing their instruments under Vivaldi's baton. And I must admit that there are tricks in that piece. And they apply to the Vivaldi Gloria too, which we've done with choir several times. Vivaldi does not work symmetrically. And you will find in these sections that go, there are too many of them or too few of them, and you don't know where you are in the measure. And it's tricked me for years. And I just figured out while I was working on this program how to conduct the first movement of the Vivaldi Gloria, because it has one of those treacherous tricks in it. It's never stumped the choir, but it stumped me. And now I would like to play a piece from the French school. César Franck, who is considered to be, I think, the epitome of French classical organ composers. Let me play for you the Pastoral of César Franck, Opus 19. Set my leveler here and my distance. This piece, when I was studying with my organ teacher, Linda Clark, she said I must imagine a picturesque little train going on a lovely day journey through the country. We come upon a rainstorm, the rain clears up, and at home we drive into the station and two sleepy people. Too much pedal. Incorrectly. les enfants. And now, if we will come back to Bach, I have a preludium in C major. What I'm doing when I fiddle with this dial, this is a dial that goes from 1 to 10, and there are pistons which go from 1 to 8. And you set your dial, which is called a leveler, for each piece. You can actually set these pistons to give you a predictable registration. Once you set your leveler and you've set your pistons for your piece, all you have to do is press one of these buttons like this, and you'll hear a little sound, and hopefully the organ has remembered, and I have remembered, a proper registration. Preludium in C. Something from the American School of Organ Composition. The American Guild of Organists, to which I belong, has lists of compositions by American composers every month, and I found the composer Daniel E. Gothrop, who is kind of a fascinating composer. He was born in 1949. He lives in Idaho, and he composes for chorus and for organ, and I think he's actually got some chamber works. And this particular set of pieces is called Four Noble Gases: neon, argon, krypton, and xenon. And as he says, there are actually six noble gases. Radon is radioactive and thus difficult to get close to, and helium is quite light and thus a bit of an airhead, he says. So he only included four, and I'm going to play for you krypton, which I have played occasionally as an offertory in church service. I find it very pretty. See what I have for registration here. for this afternoon. Thank you very much for attending.